to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
With us on the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe in 143 different nations. As we look at these nations, we're looking at this particular segment of some very unique areas in the South Pacific. These areas are called Micronesia, the Solomons, the Marshalls, and a number of the other small island nations called SIDS through the United Nations. And so we have an expert that's been spending actually 10 years of his life. And I tell you, Erik Hagberg of PAC International, I am very impressed with the dedication that you've made. I've known you now, going on maybe 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
And it's just absolutely amazing. 10 years of your life out in the South Pacific and just going out and saying, I'm excited about this. We see a future for these island nations, and we have a faith and the belief that some good thing is going to come out of this. And actually, there's a number of good things that are coming out of all this. So looking at this whole notion of the sea level rise, which is our main theme of all this, and the dramatic changes happening as far as the climate around the Earth, this is an example of where we are going in all of this. So tell us a little bit about what is sea level rise, and what is the impact right now, and then we'll get right into the slides and just demonstrate what we're talking about.
Well, global sea level rise is affecting small island developing states, SIDS, more than any other communities around the planet because they are so low to sea level. And over the past 7 years, I've witnessed with my own eyes the tide literally rising on islands and on cultures and on people. And what's happening is their fertile soils, which they rely upon for their staple crops, are first dying off.
Let's look at this. We have a classic example here of what's really going on out there. We see how the island was at one time out where the BioRock, which is this coral reef restoration process. And then we have this water area, and then we have actually what the island itself has receded to. So you're looking at how many feet would it be from the current land right now out to the edge of where the BioRock is actually located?
Well, it would take an entire segment to talk about the causes of sea level rise.
That's not my question. What is the number of feet from where we are now out to where it was before?
That's about 250 feet, and what we're seeing...
That's a lot of space. Right. So what we've seen then over these 10 years that you've actually been out then is that through this time that my understanding, the storm surges are actually more powerful.
That's correct.
They're coming higher up into the islands themselves, actually destroying some of the food stock, which leads us to that whole notion we talked about as far as the earth box.
That's right.
And so now there needs to be a way to remediate that, and what you're looking at is this product called BioRock
technology.
That's actually being used. And so looking at that is, so actually the whole notion is of actually trying to restore that, and you're employing people locally in order to be able to produce the BioRock to protect their own islands.
That's correct.
I mean, what better balance could you have?
Well, the island people rely on the coral reef and the sea around them, to maintain their way of life. And we're experiencing coral bleaching. We're experiencing accelerated climatic events. Storm surges are washing over islands, wiping out crops, and the reef is dying off. So it's losing its capability to protect the islands.
I'm going to alternate between these two because one, we have the people actually involved in protecting their own islands, but also this is a best practice, and this is demonstrating what could be done around the globe in many other countries. And then you have what your most available, one of the most available resources outside of water, of course, are human beings.
That's right.
In these areas, and so you're employing both of these. And that's a very wonderful balance. This is a natural balance that you're bringing in, and this is something that took really 10 years of research and development to realize. So what is happening here as far as where we were to where we are?
Well, what we're doing here is we're actually launching a BioRock structure that's going to prevent erosion and actually cause the shoreline to regrow. What's happening all over the Pacific and in coastal communities all over the world is erosion is washing the island away and washing the coast away. And what we've discovered, thanks to one of our brilliant advisors, Dr. Tom Goreau, who invented BioRock technology, is there is a way to regenerate coral reefs.
Now, looking at this is in a sense simple rebar. You're going to add a electrolysis process that we'll get into in a few minutes, but it's very simple. Again, you're using, in most cases, the natural resources.
That's right.
And of course, most rebar is actually made out of something recycled, old cars, buses, or ships, or whatever it may be. So we're actually taking something that has already had its first life, taking it into a second life,
That's right.
and then giving a new life into these islands. I mean,
right.
this is really the perfect balance as far as what's going on. It's perfect symmetry.
That's right. Well, steel is a universal building material, so the island communities can be trained rapidly to construct the BioRock armatures, which are then placed in the ocean, as you saw there, and powered by sustainable energy technology. And in a recent project in the Marshall Islands, funded by the government of Germany, where we're actually making the first effort to prevent disaster. It's not a disaster relief program, it's a disaster prevention program.
Well, and this is where we really need to be, and this is one of the activities for EmeraldPlanet itself. We have what we call the Power for Peace, and that's exactly what we're looking at here. This is just one of those notions of that, is where you're taking an abundant local resource, in this case it's wind.
That's right.
Which is another abundant resource that you have out in these atolls and these SIDS, small island nations, and using it to benefit, where before the last thousands of years it's only been used for sales and other kinds of things.
That's right. That's right. And you know, the indigenous communities are really subscribing to this program because for the first time they're realizing that they do have the power. The power is available to them.
They have an abundance of power. Look, this is a solar collector.
Right.
I mean, you're out in these island nations. I mean, how do tourism go out there? They go out, they're sold on the sun, the sea, the wind, and so what you're doing, again, you're combining all this together. I think it's just an absolute perfect symmetry and a perfect notion about development for the 21st century.
Right. Despite the lack of grid power in these outer islands, they do have the potential to protect very large areas of their island using BioRock technology, because an array of solar panels like that or a wave energy generator like this can grow 100 meters or more of BioRock shore protection. And it's very cost effective, because to build an equal amount of concrete steel reinforced breakwater would cost nearly $1 million.
Well, but looking at this too, though, Erik Hagberg, as looking at, let's go back here, look at the solar. We have the wind before that. Looking at these three technologies, you're using an abundant resource, using something that's totally renewable. So once you install this, you have the capital cost, which in the case of all three of these actually is very modest in what you're able to produce, because you're looking at islands, unless they import diesel and use backup diesel generators, in most cases there's absolutely no power out there whatsoever.
And we're working with redundant energy systems to provide fail-safes for the different shore protection structures, as well as provide access to electricity, DC and AC current on the island itself. Here's an example of another technology we're soon to install on Goreau Atoll in the Federated States of Micronesia. This is a tidal energy generator, and it's extraordinarily efficient. It's using a Goreau helical turbine design, and this turbine, the diagram it explains its functionality, but that will produce 5 kilowatts of electricity. So for an island community of only 300 people, that's enough power to provide some power to every household on the island for lighting so the children can study.
Some refrigeration, some cooking and all that. But looking at this is what really is what we're talking about here, is producing this limestone, get it onto the steel rod, the reinforced steel rods that you have there. And so this is something that it's very, the elegance of all this is the simplicity.
Yeah, it really,
again, you're using something from the sea to be in the sea.
BioRock is the only material that grows thicker and stronger over time in the ocean. It doesn't erode and weaken like every other shore protection or installation, marine installation type technology.
And it's not going to undermine, because it's actually light enough so if you do have some erosion underneath, it just actually just sinks down.
And it cements itself to the substratum.
And you can just add right to it. And this is a underwater scene, and you can see this is, I think you told me this is after about 2 years.
That's right.
Growth.
And as you can see, the rebar has been covered with a thick layer of calcium carbonate. And what's very unique about BioRock is that by affixing young coral coral fragments to it, the coral will actually grow 2 to 6 times faster than naturally. And importantly, in the face of global climate change, with coral bleaching having destroyed anywhere from 60 to 90% of all existing coral reefs, BioRock is 50 times approximately more resistant to coral bleaching than a non-BioRock assisted coral.
And then what you're seeing here too is that you're providing shelter for the smaller fish so that they actually can be protected. They get away from the large scale predators. And again, you're fixing the coral. And of course, this is going to lead us to another discussion we're going to have about cooperatives, employment for the local populations and all that. But this is absolutely an incredible scene here. Just after a few years, what you're being able to regenerate as far as the coral. And in some cases, you're actually establishing new coral reefs in this area because the old ones have been totally destroyed.
BioRock's got a number of key utilizations. For the sake of this discussion, the most important is shore protection. Additionally, it has the wonderful capability of restoring fishery stocks, and it also can build the island, grow the beach, prevent erosion, and create a tourist attraction at the same time.
And the whole thing about this 10 years worth of research, you actually see this area as far as the islands are here. You see the outlying areas as far as the coral reef. And so as these continue to erode and actually the land area is degraded because of the sea surge and all that, you're able to come in and install. Tell us about this technology that you're able to install within this area, and we have only about 35 seconds to do this.
Well, this diagram details the next BioRock installation we'll be doing on Goreau Atoll. It'll be powered by the tidal energy turbine on the north and the wind turbine in the south. That's about 2,500 meters of shore protection structures, and we expect to be able to grow back as much as 200 feet of beach to protect the island from future storm swells and saltwater inundation.
And as the storm swell comes over, it recedes, and it's actually leaving the sand, so it's actually building up and not taking away. One thing about the earth box, looking at this green orb right in the middle of the island, quickly tell us about this and why that's important to the local population.
That area was formerly the taro patch which the community relied on for their staple crop. Saltwater intrusion from below destroyed that taro crop, so what we're going to do is install earth box technology to grow the taro in a way that's protected from the sea.
And then the last example that we have here, and you have about 10 seconds.
This is a fish weir design utilizing BioRock technology, but also doubling as a shore protection structure. This will not only protect, but it will also feed the village.
And as we look at this, looking around the globe, how we can create the Emerald Planet.